Hey, Larkin Rose here. The U.S. military does absolutely nothing to fight for the freedom of Americans. What they do is commit violence, almost always immoral violence, on behalf of literally the worst people in the world. Political psychopaths who don't give a crap about you or your freedom or anybody else's, and who are willing to commit absolute evil by way of obedient pawns in order to enrich and empower themselves. That is what the U.S. military is used for. That is all that the U.S. military is used for. Now, I know people don't like to hear this, and a very common response is, well, my son is in the military, or my father, or my brother, or my cousin, or my friend. Think about that response. If I say this organization is doing something evil, and you say, well, somebody I know is in it, that's not a rebuttal. What it means is somebody you know or a relative of yours is now an agent of evil. The U.S. military is the biggest terrorist organization on the planet, bar none, and it's not even close. And here's the problem. There are a lot of things that people can have opinions about, and I won't bother telling them that I think they're wrong about something if it doesn't particularly matter. A lot of people have religious beliefs or beliefs about this or that don't particularly matter, and they don't affect how they treat other human beings, and so I don't feel the need to go out of my way to tell them I think they're wrong or stupid or whatever. Here's the problem. If young, stupid men growing up keep hearing the propaganda that you can join the military and fight for our freedom and fight for our country, when that's a bald-faced lie and always has been, more well-intentioned but gullible and ignorant people are going to die. Now, you can say, well, don't smear the memory of those who died in Vietnam. Those who died in Vietnam died for no good reason whatsoever. They played the evil war games of psychopaths. They accomplished nothing of value at all. They didn't fight for anybody's freedom. They just played an evil game of psychopaths. Now, that doesn't mean a bunch of people don't sign up and even go off to battle thinking they're doing something noble, although hell of a lot of them get there and realize, no, you're not. Has nothing to do with fighting for freedom or defending America at all. It never did. And people can get offended about that because people they know already suffered and died. Well, my cousin has his leg blown off. Do you want the next generation to do that too? Because you didn't have the balls to admit the truth, which is your cousin got his leg blown off for no fucking reason whatsoever, except he was gullible and fell for bullshit. And that is true of everyone in the U.S. military. None of them fight for freedom. And they haven't, ever. Well, you could try to make the argument for 1812, but I'm pretty sure nobody today is talking about that. And it's one of those things where it's actually a disservice to humanity to not point this out, even if a bunch of people are going to be offended. Because look at the propaganda the state uses. Worshipping soldiers. Thank you for your service. You served literally the worst people in the world and did absolutely nothing for decent human beings anywhere, or for anyone's freedom. You did nothing to serve that. You don't deserve thanks. You fell for a lie. Now, maybe people can praise you if you had good intentions to begin with. Okay, thanks for having good intentions. If you thought you were charging off to battle to defend freedom and blah, 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 okay, be less gullible and stupid, but at least you had good intentions. But it doesn't change the reality. There are massive amounts of U.S. soldiers who have done profoundly evil things where other people killing them would have been absolutely justified, and in a lot of cases were absolutely justified. If you're going to join in boots in the ground in Iran and violently invade a country that was no threat to us and didn't attack us, and they kill you, you deserve it. And I can hear people pissing in their pants already because we've been taught to worship the troops and support the troops, even if I may be against the war, but I support the troops. What the hell does that mean? You support people doing evil shit on behalf of political psychopaths, but you're against The exact same thing. They are the ones carrying out. They're the ones doing it. And it is an absolute disservice to humanity and morality and freedom and justice to support people who commit evil, even if they're only doing it because they were duped. And every time I do a video about this, one former thug of the state gets all offended. How could you say that about our troops? They're defending our freedom. Really? Try to describe for me what you think would have happened if mindless thugs of the U.S. imperialist war machine hadn't invaded Afghanistan or bombed Syria or people in boats. Who do you think was going to come here and take our freedoms? The only people who are a threat to the freedom of Americans are the ones that the U.S. military already works for. The idea that they're fighting for our freedom is idiotic. And refraining from pointing that out because you don't want to offend people. Which do you think is worse? Offending somebody or letting the next generation of gullible, clueless kids march off to die horribly or be physically or psychologically destroyed for life because they fell for bullshit? And they went off to play the war games of psychopaths like Hegseth and Mango Mussolini and Netanyahu, for that matter. It's not okay to not speak up against this, even if you're going to upset people, even if you're going to upset people you know. If you're in the military, you're an agent of evil. Whatever you thought you were going to be, whatever your intentions were, your job is obey politicians and kill people and blow things up when they tell you to. That's your job. If you thought that was going to be something pro-freedom, okay, you're gullible and don't understand history or politics or philosophy or much of anything else. But to not point out the reality, which is that a hell of a lot of U.S. military members are doing things which absolutely make them deserve to be killed. That is the truth. They are a terrorist organization. If you're randomly blowing up some boat in international waters because somebody told you to, because they said maybe they were trying to sell some illegal product to willing customers, you're a murderous piece of crap. And if somebody kills you, okay, the world's better off. Because if murderous pieces of crap, whether they're individually malicious or just stupidly acting on behalf of political psychopaths, you suck. You're an enemy of humanity. The U.S. military is the enemy of humanity. And it's amazing to watch people's complete inability to be anything close to objective. They look at the Iranian government, which, yeah, power-happy authoritarian buttheads. Oh, they do these things. They're terrorists. Who do you think has killed more innocent Iranians? The Iranian government? Like, we'll say this year. Or the U.S. government? Which one blew up a school full of children? Oh, that would be the thing funded by your tax dollars and done by the troops that you're cheering for. That mass murder, that heinous atrocity, that war crime. Are you going to pretend that didn't happen? Or the next best thing is, you're not going to pretend it didn't happen. Oh, well, that's unfortunate, and maybe there was a miscalculation, and we're going to make excuses for literal mass murder of children because those people are really scary. How long are you going to fall for that crap? And I'm not going to be one of the people who just quietly watch other people cheer for profound evil and terrorism and mass murder, because that's what the U.S. military does. It commits terrorism and mass murder. That's what it's doing in Iran. That's what it's been doing all over the world for a very long time. And people can be offended, and people go, the only reason you have the freedom to say this is because of the military. That is a fucking stupid thing to believe. You can be as offended as you want. That is just fucking stupid. To think that if not for U.S. terrorists going around the world murdering people and starting unnecessary wars all over the place, that somebody was going to come here and silence me? The only threat to the freedom of speech of Americans is the U.S. ruling class. The only real threat to the freedom of Americans is the U.S. ruling class that the U.S. military works for. If you think, oh, good thing we have The politicians in D.C., never mind that they're just heinously evil pieces of shit, as the Epstein evidence shows, good thing they're sending the military off to blow up people in Iran or whoever it is this week, because otherwise somebody would have come oppressed us. That's idiotic. Believing that is just stupid, and it's still stupid even if lots of the people around you were taught to believe that shit, including well-intentioned people. And to me, that's literally the worst part. If they put out ads and say, hey, if you like killing people and are a power-happy, bloodthirsty piece of crap, let us know and we'll pay you to go commit evil on the other side of the world. That would be far less of an atrocity, because you'd be hiring evil people to do evil. What they do instead is so much worse, because they play off of people's good intentions. And every ruling class does this. Every military does this. Oh, the enemy is just so horrible and terrible. We need brave young men with the courage and the rah-rah to stand up. They are using the goodness and stupidity of young men, and now young women too, to go push the agenda of the worst people in the world, literally, by way of violence, by way of committing terrorism and violence and murder. That is what the U.S. military actually is. And you can wave your flag, and you can get all offended, and you can have a sticker on your car, I support the Marines. The Marines are an agent of evil. I support the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. They're all agents of evil, regardless of what you wish they were, regardless of what you were told they were. Yes, it's just as stupid as Germans saying, oh, I think what the Third Reich and Hitler are doing is horrible, but I support the Gestapo. I support the SS. Hey, I have a cousin in the SS. I'm going to support him. That's because you're indoctrinated and stupid, not because you're good, not because you're noble, not because you're supporting anything righteous, but just because you were duped. And the problem is, you being duped and mindlessly repeating this state-worshipping bullshit will continue to get American kids killed and kids on the other side of the world. Americans aren't more valuable than people on the other side of an invisible, bogus line, contrary to what your nationalist indoctrination may tell you. But you're getting Americans killed with your stupid belief system. So if you want to get offended when I say the U.S. troops don't do a fucking thing to defend our freedom and never have, you can get offended while you spread bullshit propaganda that gets young people killed, including young Americans. I would rather say something that maybe some young people who are on the fence, should I join up? Should I join the military? And they hear somebody go, no, you're including a hell of a lot of former military people I know who are now voluntarists and who now say exactly what I'm saying right now and try to talk people out of it. I would much rather offend a bunch of snowflake bootlickers and maybe have somebody hear something other than, yeah, thank you for your service if you choose to be a mindless thug of violence for political psychopaths. You don't deserve thanks or respect for that. It's literally worse than if you join the Bloods or Crips or some drug cartel and murder innocent people. It's worse because the damage done by the U.S. military is way, way, way worse than any gang of private thugs. You know any gang of private thugs? Oh, whoops, we just killed 180 school children in some other country. We'll say it was an accident. Maybe it was an accident. Probably wasn't, because you also underestimate how evil these people are. If they need there to be a violent response, they will commit atrocities to make sure the other side is so offended. They have to respond. Yes, they're that fucking evil. And if you don't understand that the U.S. military has zero good intentions among the people who run it, go read the Operation Northwoods documents that were declassified a while back. Go read them. I dare you. If you think the military is about protecting our freedom, it's about creating war. It's about creating hell on earth on purpose to enrich profoundly evil pieces of shit. And if you don't want to believe that, I dare you to read the Operation Northwoods documents, which is in their own words, signed off on by all of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under JFK, to commit terrorism, to fake out the American people, to get them into another unnecessary war. So they will cheer for an unnecessary war. If you don't think the people at the top of the military are fucking lunatics, read just that document. Now, there's 8 zillion more documents that you've never heard of, and lots of us are never going to see at all because they're classified and always will be. If you want to know the mentality, look up just the phrase helpful wave. Look up the term helpful wave in the Operation Northwoods documents. Read just that sentence. Well, you're probably going to be lazy and not look it up if you're a statist, so I'm going to tell you what it said. The top brass at the Pentagon signed off on starting a war with Cuba by doing false flag terrorism, including against Americans, including in the U.S., to blame it on Castro to start a war. And you know what they said about a helpful wave? They said if Americans were reading about casualties in U.S. papers, if they were reading about dead Americans, that would cause, in the words of these fucking sociopaths, a helpful wave of national indignation so that then the people could cheer for having another war. That wasn't talking about, well, if we kill the other enemy. It was talking about the U.S. military killing Americans on purpose to get other Americans angry enough to go, we need a war. And that's everyone supporting the bullshit happening in Iran right now. It's everyone supporting anything the U.S. military does because it's all driven by people that profoundly evil. It has nothing to do with protecting your freedom or spreading freedom elsewhere. The U.S. parasites don't want you to be free. Why the hell do you think they would want Iranians to be free or anybody else to be free? So you can be offended all you want. You can pee yourself and say, well, my cousin, brother, whatever it is in the military, how dare you talk about him like that? Tell him to quit because he's an agent of evil. He fell for bullshit. And if you'd like, I could point you to several thousand former military people saying, yeah, don't fall for that bullshit. I fell for it. Some of them went and all the way saw combat and did profoundly evil things. Some of them, luckily, were spared that, but they figured out along the way, we're not fighting for freedom. We're not defending Americans. We're just unthinking thugs for thieves and psychopaths. And that's all. That's the U.S. military. And they can pile billions of dollars into their bullshit propaganda. Be all you can be. If all you can be is an unthinking, violent idiot for the worst people in the world, then join up. If not, then maybe speak out against this shit, so that we don't have another generation and another generation of clueless but desperate kids dying horribly or being physically or psychologically maimed for the rest of their life because they fell for that bullshit and because no one came out and said, don't do that. It's not good. It's not about fighting for freedom. It's not about protecting Americans. Because if you actually give a shit about protecting the freedom and lives of Americans, and you're not a complete imbecile, then you would recognize the primary thing you have to fight against is the United States government. Not Iran, not some other country on the other side of the world. The only significant threat to the prosperity and freedom of Americans is their own damn government. As lots of people had pointed out, if the U.S. military actually gave a shit about defending freedom, they'd be invading D.C. But they're not, because they work for D.C. as agents of evil. And if you don't like to hear it, I don't fucking care. Because as long as duped American kids are committing evil on behalf of sociopaths, people ought to fucking say so if they understand the reality. And I do, and more people do. If you're in the military, fucking quit. If you're thinking of joining the military, don't. It's that simple. It's a gang of either idiots or psychopaths, some of each, but none of them are doing a goddamn thing to defend our freedom. And if more people would say that, then fewer stupid kids would fall for it and join up. The good news is, for the first time in forever, recently stories have come out where the U.S. military hasn't managed to meet their recruitment goals because not enough people are gullible and stupid enough to join up to be cannon fodder for child molesters and war criminals. Good. Let's continue that trend, and you can only do that if the bullshit statist war-worshipping propaganda that these psychos crank out is at least countered by some people saying, that's bullshit. The U.S. military is bullshit. The troops are not serving us. They are serving lunatics. And anyone decent should quit immediately.